Okay, guys, look, this is Coach Corbin. This is my podcast, Kentucky Fathers, and I think by this time, most of my listeners understand our vision for this podcast, and our vision is to help fathers become better fathers today than what they were yesterday. We feel the best way to do that is to bring men on, interview them, bring men on who are fathers or who have had fathers, and that's pretty close to any man living on earth. We've all had fathers, and it doesn't really matter what kind of relationship we have with our father. That man has had an impact on us. Sometimes we're aware of it, other times we're not. Sometimes we're conscious of it, sometimes we're not. But hopefully, in talking about our relationship with our fathers, we start learning more about him, ourselves, and then if we are fathers, how that relationship with our father sort of played a role or plays a role in the way we father or parent our children, our seed. We have with us Dexter Pitts. This brother is really, really coming on as a person a lot of people want to enjoy listening to, enjoy hearing from, and learning from. You're going to hear a lot more about this brother in the future. So it's a real privilege for me to get him this early in his career. And it's definitely a blessing for me to talk to him about his father and his views and perspectives on fatherhood. Brother Dex, you have children, don't you?
I do. My son actually just turned 5 yesterday.
Wow.
And my Brooklyn, she is 7 years old. She'll be 8 later this year.
5 and 7. And you say little girl, right?
Oh yeah. My little girl, she's 7 years old in August. My boy just turned 5.
Born a girl. All right. That's a real blessing, man. Real blessing. Let me tell you. I remember my little girl was little girl. They grow up too fast, man. They grow up too fast. But brother, let's start off by talking a little bit about your father. You know, how did you sort of how would you define your relationship with him?
Well, right now, unfortunately, I do not have a relationship with my father because of things from the past. However, the lessons my father did teach me, I'm taking those lessons and I'm applying them now. And I'm also seeing a lot of the wrong that my father did that I'm using to become a better father for my children.
Mm-hmm.
And like there's a lot of, like I said, last time I talked to my dad was probably 2016, 2017. And before that, it was years before that. And I'll get into that story here later in the podcast why we don't really talk.
Right. Well, only, bring it up if you feel comfortable with it. But you're saying there's some things in the past, so things that specifically happened between the two of you, or just things that just sort of happened and you both like, well, how do we deal with this? Is it like that, or?
It was a whole family incident. So I'm going to tell you a story where, for some odd reason growing up, my mother always told me, don't treat your wife like your father treats me. And, I always heard that, but I never knew the content or context behind it. Because my eyes, everything in our family was fine. My parents would fight. I seen them, swing at each other a couple times, but it's families, man. We're all dysfunctional on some level. It's like, that was normal,
Yes.
But it was on the day of August 29th, 2010. I was a rookie police officer with the Louisville Metro Police Department, and I was working at the Iron Man detail out in Prospect. And I got a phone call. Say, hey, is this Dexter Pitts? I was like, yes, this is he. You need to get to the hospital right now. Your mother's shot. She's just been airlifted to the University of Louisville. And my first initial thought was, why are you playing with me? Don't call me on my phone while I'm at work trying to prank me. And he reassured me this is not a prank, and I hung up the phone. He called back again. I was like, Officer Pitts, this is not a joke. You need to get to the hospital. Your mother's shot. So I get to U of L hospital in my police car with my buddy. My mother's laying in the bed and she's shot. She's shot in the head. I remember looking down at the brown paper bags on her hands and I'm thinking, man, what are these brown paper bags? And I just remember seeing the blood, the gauze wrapped around her head. I'm trying to figure out who shot and killed my mother. Who would do, and it just, the thought never crossed my mind that she would do this to herself. So I ended up taking my mother off of life support because they told me that her brain function had pretty much ceased. Only thing keeping her alive was the life support. And she always told me that no matter what, do not leave me on life support. Do not leave me hanging in the balance. Just let me go. I don't want people to see me like this. So I made my mother, I did as she asked, and I took her off life support. Next thing you know, I'm talking with officers from the Radcliffe Police Department, and they're telling me about this altercation that had occurred at my house, at my parents' house, early in the morning. My mom and dad had been married for 28 years, but they were recently divorced. Altercation occurred, and during that altercation, there was some physical contact between my parents, and the next thing you know, my father arrives at the police station. He's drenched in blood, covered in blood, I'm head to toe. And they go to the house and they find my mother sitting in her car, her driver's seat of her car, with the car running, with a gunshot wound to the head. And that's when they take her to the hospital and they fly her up to the U of L, and I get there. So it comes to find out after the investigation was concluded, my mother did shoot and kill herself. However, that was a result of the abuse that she suffered at the hand of my father for 28 years.
Right.
And left suicide notes detailing how my father controlled her life, every aspect of her life, and just told her, how to what type of underwear to wear, what time she had to go to bed, who she could and could not talk to, gave her curfew and all types of crazy stuff that I never knew of because I was the baby in the family, and you don't want your kids knowing your business. So all this was a shock to me, so that really changed my relationship with my father. And I mean, even before that, I mean, going back, like I said, my dad was a military man growing up in Fort Knox. Man, he wasn't always around because he was out in the field, but when I was younger, him being around, I loved my father being around. I looked up to him, come home in his uniform. I remember he would come home from the field sometimes and you could hear his boots walking down the hallway real heavy. And me and my sister would try to pretend like we were asleep, and he would come in and give us a kiss and a hug and, go to bed. Those are the things I remember, but I also remember some of the most important things. Just, I don't know. We never really discussed politics growing up, but I just remember hearing my dad say things to me such as, you don't ever be nobody's victim, just work hard and you can overcome stuff, so stuff like that sticks with me. But also other thing that sticks with me, my family's from Mississippi. We are truly the descendants of slaves. My grandfather, he was a sharecropper in Mississippi for almost 54 years. And these are hard Southern men, black men. We don't do feelings. I can only on one times that my father said, "I love you." And I remember after my father got out of the military, he became a truck driver. I remember I went on the road with him one week. We were sitting in the truck driving, and it was just super quiet. And it was so awkward. He says, "I love you, son." And I just, it was just it was earth shattering. It was like, I didn't know what to say back. And I was like, do I say it back? And I said, "I love you too, Dad." And then you could just feel
Yeah.
Truck, it just got awkward, but it was beautiful, and I love to hear, but it's something I didn't hear much, but it was expected to know that I love you. Hey, I'm paying bills because I love you. I'm paying mortgage because I love you, and that's pretty much the relationship with him. I tried, like I say, he's very religious as well. And I tried talking to my father, but he doesn't want to discuss the incident that happened with my mother, and neither really does his family, because to them, they just want to get past it and move on. And he told me that really hurt me was I need to forgive myself and move on. And it was as though he was putting all the things he had did off on me. And I did not appreciate that because I had nothing to do with this incident. That was between him and his wife, my mother. And it's unfortunate because I now have children, but my children do not know their grandfather, and they'll never get to meet my mother, their grandmother.
Right.
I've reached out to him, but he is such a strong-willed and just stubborn person. And he does not want to come to grasp with anything he had to do with this incident. And so just wants to act like my mother was never here, and I can't do that.
Right. But that's a lot. That's a lot to unpack. I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, I try to keep these to 15, 20 minutes. I don't think I can do that this time, but we're going to do our best. But brother, I appreciate you sharing that. I really do. And this is going to be, you're still writing the book. Isn't that correct?
Yeah. I just sent it off to a publisher. Hopefully they're going to accept it. And it's all that's going to be in the book.
It's all in there. Okay. All right. But it's been difficult for you to put that out there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, writing it was, open up old wounds that you didn't want to have to open, but you have to. And because I'm opening those wounds, that's also making me a better man and a better father. I'm seeing the mistakes he made, and I tell my kids continuously, I don't expect them to just know that I love them. I expect them to know and see and hear from me that, hey, dad loves me. I know this for sure. I don't know how many times a day I tell my kids I love them, but I tell them as much as possible. And as a police officer, I have seen parents that have lost their children, and I've also seen it the other way where children have lost their parents, and the regret that comes with that regret of not being there.
Yeah.
I don't want regret in my life, and I don't want what befell my parents to befall my children and my relationship with my kids. I'm not going to let that happen on my watch. That stops right here.
Right. Well, that's. I'm glad you and I'm glad you said that. You want your children to know, Daddy. You want them to know, see, and hear that Daddy loves them.
That's right.
And brother, you never know when someone's going to pass. You never know. And so what you're saying, that's some beautiful wisdom there. I never forget when my ex-wife and we were divorced, and Sarah's with me on a weekend, nothing unusual about that. And then I'd be daggone, man, if I didn't have a heart attack.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Last thing on my mind was a heart attack. And I had a heart attack. I was in a chair in the living room, and little girl had to come out and do what she had to try to do. So you just never knew. That was the last thing on my mind, brother. And so, what you're saying, that's some powerful wisdom. I know a lot of people are thinking, well, that's simple. No, that's some serious wisdom, and hopefully that's wisdom that many of our fathers will apply. And their children, you never know when or how.
And it always sounds simple, but it's not simple, because there's nothing about parenting that's simple. Being a police officer is easy because I have a manual to refer to tell me if I don't know what to do. Then I have a lieutenant and a major and a lieutenant.
Right.
This is what you're going to do. I don't have that with my kids. And, but more so taking care of my kids is taking care of myself, that I'm learning foremost almost 37 years later, that I got to take care of myself better physically, mentally, and emotionally to be kids the way they need me to be. Because I was in Iraq, I suffer from PTSD. I'm a police officer, been out here on the front streets with the riots. I got a lot going on in my life, and I'm tired. I'm not sleeping well. I'm having dreams and nightmares. And I knew something was wrong with me. So the last few weeks, I've been talking with the VA. I was like, hey, you know what? I need help. And that's hard. I don't just need help from me. I need help from my family, because what happened in my past, that's not fair that it should be affecting my kids' future. I don't like that. They Iraq, they didn't. It's been 16, 17 years. They shouldn't have to suffer because of that. But that's why I'm starting back counseling and therapy with the Department of Veteran Affairs, because I be a better man. And if I'm emotionally shut down, I can't help my children grow.
Right. That's, brother, you hit it. You hit the nail. You did it again, Hammer. You're right. You did it again. Yes, sir.
And it's hard. It's really hard to open up and just see, like, man, I need to get better for myself, and it's prioritizing. And I got to make priorities. Like, I decided I'm not working extra no more. I like making money, but you know what? I want to live. I want to be here. I got to get the stress off me. And I'm playing basketball now. It's like, hey, I need to be there. He needs to look on the sideline and see me there cheering and clapping and cheering him on.
Right.
My daughter. Because if I don't give them the love they want, guess what? They're going to go find it somewhere else.
There you go.
There's no substitute for a parent's love or a father's love. There's no substitute at all. And, the substitutes for that leads to, addiction, drugs, run out in the streets, gangs, and all that. And especially being a father of Black children, where 80% of Black children are born into single-parent homes. My kids realize how blessed they are to have a two-parent home with two parents that actually love each other and love them. And that is the narrative that I want my kids to know.
Now, this is a little off subject, but your son's playing basketball. Is that right?
Sir.
Yeah. What kind of, is your daughter in any sports or extracurricular activities?
Oh, she played soccer when she was a couple years ago, but she didn't really care for it. But we just decided she wants to get into track. So we're going to Yeah, we're gonna start preparing her for track. Take her out running. You know, weather's starting to get a little better. We're gonna take them over to the little tennis court, make her run some sprints. You know, just little things. Maybe 30 minutes, an hour. It's not a lot, but it's something.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, no, any good sport's a good sport. I mean, that's fantastic. Now, unfortunately, she may have to deal with this whole question of some boy who believes he's a girl and wants to compete against her.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to be happening. I know that's going to be a thing. I
Uh,
know the way this country's going. It's unfortunate, but we have to admit that, you know what, men and women are different. And it's
mm,
not, might be born a man, and regardless of how you identify, I don't need another dude wrestling my, you know, competing against my daughter. It's not fair. You
right.
know, taking scholarships away from women that have worked hard their whole lives
There
to
you
break the,
go.
not fair. But I tell people, I have friends that are part of the LGBTQ community. I have friends that are trans. I support them. I might not agree, but I support them in their life.
Hmm.
This is America, man. This is the United States of America. You can be and do and identify as what you want, but you can't let what you believe, you know, infringe upon somebody else's hard work. That's not right.
Right.
You know, believe you're a man don't mean you need to be compete, or a woman does not mean you need to be competing in women's sports. That's
Right.
lunatic. That's crazy.
And brother, that's again, that's more common sense. But it's unfortunately something you just said. Like it's just common sense, but fortunately, you go on a lot of these college campuses, man. They'd be ready to drive you to beat you with a stick and talk about your people and run you off the campus. I mean,
Oh yeah,
you sometimes just got to wonder about what's happening with our culture and with the college university students. But let's go back here to fatherhood. What are some other things that you think that you do differently or that you do consciously because of your relationship with your father?
me. So one things I do, I make my kids. Well, not make them. I get them involved because my dad, he would speak vaguely. He would say, "Hey, save your money." I'm like, okay, that means nothing. Just hey, save your money. Me and my kid, my family, we're big on Dave Ramsey. You know, we've been on Dave Ramsey's show. You know, they
Mm,
use Turning Point series. So when we do our budget, our kids sit down with us and do our budget, and we talk about
right,
saving money, staying out of debt, you know, little stuff like that. We don't just tell
right,
them, "Hey, do this." Why? Because I said so. Because that's how I grew up. I grew up in that era where you don't ask questions. I'm an adult. You know,
right,
you're a child.
right.
We need to tell you and explain to you why. You know, and it's important to know why. Why should not be a secret.
There you go. Ooh, man, we lost connection again. It, there you go. You
There
back
we go.
on? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Zuckerberg's still ticked off about you, man.
Probably.
This happened the last time too.
It did.
He ain't giving up on. He ain't giving up.
I'm coming for him, so you better.
Right.
I'm not. Everybody else might be afraid. I'm not.
Yeah, there you go, man. There you go. Well, we're probably going to need to wrap this up in a couple of minutes, man. A lot of powerful, powerful stuff, brother. I mean, I really appreciate that. But let me just quickly summarize a couple of things you said. One is that you do everything you can do to let your children know, hey, daddy loves you. You know, they know it, they see it, they hear it, and then two, you just don't always take the attitude of, oh, I told you to do something. Well, daddy, what's up? How do I do? No, just do it. No, you explain it to him. You break it down to him. You let them know the why there, and then you actually, do it with them. Hey, this is how we budget. This is why we budget.
Right.
And of course, getting them involved in extracurricular activities, um, that's important as well. And do you think that what happened with, what you saw with your father, also even had an impact on your marriage?
Uh, at the time, I did end up getting. I was in a different marriage at the time,
Mhm.
and yeah, that ended up coming to a halt right afterwards because of some things that were said to me about my mother from
Mm,
my ex, which I'm not going to get into yet, but that will be in the book. That's definitely going to be in the book. But yeah, it did. And then also, that stuff also made me look at myself. You know, like I've been I'm divorced twice by the time I was like 26, 27. I was like, this is not right. Of course, in the veteran and law enforcement and military community, that's practically normal. But I'm like, we're better than this. I'm better than this. What the heck is the problem? And so instead of looking to blame everybody else, which I could have done, and there's always blame to pass around, but I had to take personal responsibility and be like, man, I'm the common denominator here. Why does this keep happening to me? And I'm also teaching my children personal responsibility. We can always find somebody to blame. I can blame my father. I can blame my mother, my sister. I can blame the community. I can blame slavery. I can blame the evil racist white guy. But until I look at myself in the mirror and see what I am doing, the actions that I am taking that are bringing these things into my life will never change. Because as long as if you don't take personal responsibility, you are selling yourself short, and you're killing your own growth, and you can't do that. That's the only way to grow. And it's uncomfortable. It's not supposed to be comfortable. That's the only way to grow.
Mm. Right. Brother, we're going to conclude it right there. And I want to say to the fathers who are listening, I really hope that you zeroed in on the last 30 seconds of what this brother just said right there. I mean, that's a great lesson we can pass on to, as fathers, we can pass on to our children. That's a great lesson. I don't care what color you are, culture, language, doesn't matter. I don't care where you live, how you live. That's a great thing for all of us fathers to communicate to our children. Brother Dex, I appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Corbin. I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah.
Definitely do. I'm glad you're doing heart attack as well. I did not know that. So.
Oh yeah, man. It was messed up. I actually got a couple of funny stories behind it. I'll let you know. A lot of people say, "Well, how can you get humor out of heart attack?" But yeah, I got a couple of funny ones. I'll share them with you sometime.
I definitely want to hear them, brother. Definitely.
All right, man. Brother. I'll be in touch.